Aloha and welcome to Talk Story with Nohea Mike. First video in a long time. Been meaning to make some, just haven't got around to it, but I'm back to give it a shot here. Hopefully one of these days I'll figure out how to get graphics up on these to at least get my title up there and all that. But tonight I am going to be talking about 10 or 11 album obsessions I have had. Albums, they don't have to be the best album from a band, or definitely an album I liked, but albums when they came out or I got my hands on them, I just couldn't stop playing them, and they stuck on the turntable or CD player for an extended period of time and dominated my thoughts and such. So we're going to talk about those tonight. And some of the stories behind them, and that's why I call this channel Talk Story, even though it is talking about music. So let's get rolling here. And I got these in chronological order, not the way they were released, but the way they came into my life. So we're going to start off here with Pink Floyd, The Wall. This is a reissue album. I don't know what happened to my original album. Moved around a lot, lost a lot of albums, warped a lot, and got warped while traveling and moving, getting stuck in the sun and hot weather. But nice little reprint here. It's got the lyrics on it, and this album, let me get up the information on it. The other album's the same, nothing else special in here that I recall. This album came, November 30th, 1979. This I listened to, it was one of the earlier albums I got, not the first album I got, but I remember being obsessed with this in the basement of my parents' house with my first stereo and playing this and reading those lyrics on these little inner sleeves. It was pretty much the same thing. This is a little nicer packaging, a little bigger, stronger packaging now than it was then. But in those early days, you don't have a lot of albums. So, and it was albums. So, you're playing the same stuff a lot, but this one, I don't remember why, but I just remember listening to this a lot more intently, and that's the real memory I have from listening to albums in my parents' basement from, I think I got my first stereo at 16. Some other video I'll talk about, I'll mention it here. It was like Van Halen 1 and Styx Pieces of 8 were my first albums. And as much as I like, though, that was the real obsession. Like I said, playing it over and over again. But that's the first one I really can think of being obsessed with. There's other albums, you like a lot, but I'm talking about obsessed, where you just kept playing them. But that was the parents' basement. The next albums really come as a pair. This was college. Specifically, I remember my sophomore year, which would have been 1982, 1983. So these albums were about 10 years old then. But being obsessed with them, and I was definitely a prog rocker, as you can see here. But we're going to look at the Yes album. So this is my original copy that I got back in the days, probably in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember specifically. You can see a little wear and tear on this here. You can see some of the album wear on there, and the Circle of Life on it. Gatefold. As you can see, sorry, I'm talking a little soft here. Have to be more clear. Chris Squire looks so young in that picture right there. So does Bill. They all do. And there you can't really see Steve Howe. Tony Kaye's the big one in the center, blurry. I do like the keyboards on this. It's definitely not as colorful as Rick Wakeman. It's a much richer flavor. The guitar work, definitely a pickup from their earlier stuff, though I got the earlier stuff after that. Didn't think too much to talk about tracks on this. I don't know why. Let me just go back here for a second on the wall. Pull up the track listing here. Yeah, lots of short songs, lots of long songs. This is, they made the movie about it. In the Flesh, I always like. Thin Ice was great. The Another Brick in the Wall, Happiest Days of Our Life. Good, not my favorite songs. Mother was an awesome song. Empty Spaces I like. Young Lust was always a good one. Goodbye Cruel World, but this was like a story. It was a play. I might have liked tracks better, but I stuck with it. Hey You starts off the third side. All of these bringing back some memories. I need to go back and listen to this again. But just reading through all these tracks, Nobody's Home, Vera, Bring the Boys Back Home, of course, the classic Comfortably Numb, the conclusion side, The Show Must Go On, the little trial and all that, In the Flesh, Run Like Hell, the trial, Outside the Wall. Skipped over a couple of tracks there, but let's get back to Yes here. 6 tracks on this one, and then I said it comes as a pair because we also have Close to the Edge here. And is this a gatefold? No, it's not. Should have been a gatefold. I used to put tape on this before I thought of cellophane tape because these things played so much. Got the lyrics on both sides. Never bothered to try to understand. Oh, this is a gatefold. I thought this was a gatefold. There's the center there. My thumb was holding it tight there. But most of my friends were always talking about Close to the Edge and the Yes album. I was the big defender of Close to the Edge and Fragile. I love Fragile too. These 3 albums made Bill Bruford my favorite drummer, and for a long time I had more Bill Bruford on any of my music than anything, with King Crimson and some Genesis and a couple albums with Patrick Moraz and Bruford, the band, and was obsessed with that. I do have both of these on CD. Right here, the little deluxe edition on this. Does this come with anything else? Is this a deluxe edition? Yeah, alternate versions of And You and I, Siberia, studio run through of Siberian Katru. Love this album to death, obviously. I was into this one first before this one. This one I started to listen to and got into Close to the Edge. Fragile is probably the third. This comes with a few extra tracks, I think, on it too. Yours Is No Disgrace, Starship Trooper. Really, really like those songs on the Yes album. The Clap, the guitar solo one, was into it. Second side, not quite as good to me, but still loved it quite a bit. Your Move and All Good People. Of course, the classic. Heard it a little bit too much. Most of you can say that. Adventure, Perpetual Change was great. I love those. Probably played the first side of the album a little bit more than this. Had to get them in digital copies eventually, though. But that was a sophomore year of college. 101 Bromfield, I think it was, in Bowling Green State University. The little stereo setup in the room, probably the same stereo I had in my parents' house, or at least parts of it. I was definitely a prog rocker then. I remember some Alan Parsons albums and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but those 2 Yes albums were the big obsessions. One of the next ones that came along at the same time in the next year, this was a earlier release again. I didn't get it when it was new. It's a later release than these. Don't know what happened to these on my CD, but here we have the Kinks live, One for the Road. This was my real introduction to the Kinks. Not the first stuff I heard from them, but the first thing I got. Nice, hard, rocking album. This is a reissue I purchased recently because I wanted it on vinyl. I got a high-def download on it. I don't know what happened to my CD of it. I got rid of some CDs. I regret that. A few years ago because I was running out of space. But I used to have this on album. Don't know what happened to my original album, whether it got damaged or lost it or whatever. We got another gatefold here. Nice live shot there in the center. I've had the pleasure of seeing the Kinks live a couple of times. Once in Madison, Wisconsin. Once in Springfield, Massachusetts, I believe it was. Late in their career, but it was an awesome show. Got to see the brothers fighting at the show in Madison. But keep forgetting to mention the songs. You guys know the songs on Close to the Edge. And, Close to the Edge and You and I. Siberry and Katru. All excellent stuff. I'll try to remember to talk more about the tracks from here. But this was really my first live album I got into, as I recall. But just love this now, Hard Way, Catch Me Now, I'm Falling. Remember hearing Low Budget on the radio in my hometown, and Gallon to Gas, and getting the Kinks then. And this is the first one I bought. Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Lola, this is Greatest Hits Live, Pressure, All of the Day and All of the Night, 20th Century Man, Misfits, Prince of Punk, Stop Your Sobbing. Love every one of those tunes. Love the way Ray Davies talks and presents them. A lot of energy in the show. A lot of stuff from Low Budget on here. Starts on the second side. Low Budget, Attitude, Superman, National Health, Till the End of the Day. Celluloid Hero's always been one of my favorite Kinks songs. You Really Got Me, Victoria, David Watts. It's just a great rockin' album. This album's so much fun. There's Dave Davies on the back. That would be Ray Davies. This is another gatefold. Doing good on the gatefolds so far. I did show that earlier, that picture. So, One for the Road. This was another one. Started in sophomore year, 101 Brownfield. Carried over for the rest of high school quite a bit, listening to it, as did the Yes. But I really liked that album. The Yes I had more of, so that started to spread around. And as you go on, I was thinking of this earlier, as you go on into listening to the music and collecting music, it gets harder and harder to have an obsession because you've got more and more stuff that you're to listen to get in the way, other things that you love, and all that. But like I said, these obsessions keep coming on up through the years, so it has been less in the later years and all that. And I noticed the places, I really remember the places I used to listen to these albums at. Okay. Next, Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. Not a gatefold. There's the inside. Whoops. This is weird how everything moves backward. That's what it looks like. If you own it, you know what it looks like. One of the videos I've been meaning to do is a Kate Bush deep dive into it, ranking, all that stuff. I also have the CD here, and this is an interesting story. This is one of the first CDs I got. I don't think it was the first. It might have been the first. I can't recall that well. But this is a reissue I got in one of the Kate Bush box sets, which are really quite nice. I'm going to pause this and go grab it. It's not pausing for some reason. I think it was. Ooh, it's not very focused there. See if we can't get that to refocus here. Okay, the focus came back there. I'll talk more about Kate Bush when I do my next video, which will probably be, like I said, a analysis, deep dive analysis of her discography. But first off, this is from this box set right here. Very nice box set, pretty much all the way. The original ones. This is Kate Bush 3, is it? 2. Hounds of Love, The Ninth Wave, The Sensual World, and Red Shoes. Hounds of Love and Ninth Wave are the same thing. I'm just reading here too much of it. But The Sensual World and Red Shoes are in on here. These are pretty much faithful reproductions of the original versions. I originally had these on CD. But nice box set. The CD box sets are better. I'll show that in the better looking. I'll show that in the thing. 180 grams. They sound really good to me. Other people probably have better stories of the sound, but the reason I needed this and the story behind this one is when CDs were first coming out. So I remember the day I heard this, which I'll talk about in the Kate Bush deep dive, at my parents' house. Came on MTV. Remember the first time I heard it, it grabbed my attention. Later I heard the second single and I went out and bought it. But I played the album so much when CDs first were coming out and getting big with the record store where I lived in Columbus, Ohio. Was doing a promotion where you could trade in an album for a CD. CDs were much more expensive than albums at this time still. And unlike now. And I traded in Kate Bush. So this is one of the first CDs I ever got. This is the CD I got when I traded in that album. I wish I had the album back, of course, now. I wish I had the CD too. But the choices we make and that we have to live with, oh well, life goes on. It happens. But love this album. So Hounds of Love, the first track I ever heard that I showed. This is what it looks like on the inside. Not a gatefold on this one. The original did have the stuff on the inside, though. Similar. These Kate Bushes are pretty faithful reproductions of the original releases. They didn't make it a gatefold, though they could have, despite it being her biggest album. But love every track on this. You know, the first side, The Hounds of Love, the singles, you know, just the song-oriented side, Running Up That Hill, the drum beat and the synths in there. Though they're so 80s, they still sound good on there. Hounds of Love, The Big Sky. It says 7-inch mix here. I didn't notice that before. I wonder how that's different from the CD. I'll have to listen to it at some point. Mother Stands for Comfort and Cloud Busting, which had a really cool video that came with it featuring Donald Sutherland. Lyrically, you know, the second side, I could always feel it was a song cycle. And Dream of Sleep Under Ice, Waking the Witch, Watching You Without Me, Jig of Life, Hello Earth, The Morning Fog. You know, it's weird because I listen to lyrics, I hear lyrics, but I don't remember lyrics. I don't become obsessed with them unless I really don't like it. Then it bothers me. Pete Pardo's mentioned this. You know, you hear them, it's more the melodies and how the vocals sound that are distinct to me than the lyrics. Though when I get into a song, I can kind of remember it. You know, I get out of the song and it's like I can't remember exactly what they were saying and all that. But love this album. Introduction to Kate Bush. I shouldn't say my introduction to Kate Bush, but it was my entry into Kate Bush. And that will be explained more in that other video. I've heard a little bit about my stories about Kate Bush here. Might be my most played album ever. Next was after I graduated from college. and living in Columbus, Ohio, this crappy little apartment just south of the Ohio State campus. Remember coming home twice from my bowling league and seeing light coming out of our front door where the front door used to be from our apartment getting broken into. Lost some of my albums there. That's one place I've lost them. I forgot about that until this video. Thanks for reminding me, everybody. Jeez. Oh, well, you can look back and laugh, but this is John Anderson's Song of Seven. This is a recent purchase. So is this. I don't know what happened to my original album of this. Had to have it on digital. But another one that disappeared. See, there's a sleeve. This isn't a gatefold. I guess it goes like this and like this. That's what it looks like there. But this was released in what year? I got all this information up here. I haven't been bothering to look at it. I prepared and I haven't used my preparation. Just rambling. Hope you're enjoying my rambling. 1980. I didn't discover this until 85. I picked up a used copy at a record store on High Street, probably in Columbus, Ohio. And there's the upside down version. And I loved Yes, so I knew John Anderson. Picked this up sight unseen because he didn't have the ability to really pre-listen to things in those days. Some stores had listening stations, but this I got used. It's more poppy than Yes is for sure. It's a little softer, it's a sweeter, but for whatever reason, I loved it. When I was getting ready for this, I was looking up the rankings for this, and the album that came out before this, Elias of Sun Hillow, which I didn't discover after this, much higher rank online than this one was. I don't know, I've never been able to get into that album. Can't stand it. I shouldn't say I can't stand it. I haven't listened to it in 40 years. 30, the early 90s, 30 plus years. Discovered it much after this one. I just could not get into this bad album, but this one, 85, 86, 87, somewhere in there, probably 86. I found this album and just was obsessed with it, just played it all the time. John Anderson's very religious theme. It was almost like religion to me listening to it. I remember saying that to my girlfriend at the time, who did not get that. She didn't agree with it. She tried to get into it, but never saw the point of it. But I still love this album to this day. I still listen to it regularly. There's some decent musicians on here. Jack Bruce plays on the song. They list them out song by song, yeah. Ian Berenson from the early Kate Bush albums and a lot of studio stuff, and best known for playing on all the Alan Parsons albums, I believe. Is there anybody else I recognize in here? Clem Clemson, Jack Bruce plays on one song. Christopher Rainbow doing some background vocals. Simon Phillips on one track. Maurice Pert, John Giblin. I know some of these people on here. So, but I like this album. It's light, it's poppy, great vocals on it. I think it's a really strong album. The couple of ratings I saw on Wikipedia were 2 stars, where on Sun Hillow they were 4 stars, but this is the 4 or 5 star album for me. Sun Hillow I don't like. Columbus, Ohio, mid-late 80s. Played this a lot. Just really found it. And this is the point, the Kate Bush it really started with. The headphones and just putting on an album and closing my eyes, and headphones or just lying right between the speakers to hear it and trying to let it totally engulf me. And take everything in and occasionally falling asleep to it. Okay, next here, what have I got? Let's see. And I'm sure there's other albums I was obsessed with. I might do another video in this theme at some point, because I've got a few other albums that I know I was obsessed with that I chose not to put in this one. But it was a few years to the next one. This would be early 90s. This album was out in 1988, 89, I believe. I was living in Massachusetts at the time. Sunderland, Mass, I want to say, just north of Amherst. Little house, basement house. John Amarello with my roommate. We lived in these downstairs rooms. We had our own little living room out there that the rest of the house didn't use. It was all college students living there. But this is a crowded house, Temple of Low Men. You can see it there. This is the CD. This is probably the first CD obsession I have. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Art by, Nick Seymour, that guy right there. He does all the artwork for Crowded House albums. But this is their second album, Temple of Low Men. Not as big of a hit in the US as it was as their first album. But I love this one. I really found, the more I listened to it, turning on all the friends to it in the apartment, when one of my albums got up on the stereo in the living room where we all lived, this was usually the album I played. I Feel Possessed, Kill I, Into Temptation, great song. Mansion in the Slums, When You Come, great song for Crowded House. Never Be the Same, love that song. Love This Life, another song I absolutely love. Sister Madly, featuring Richard Thompson on the lead guitar solo. In the Lowlands, Better Be Home Soon, just top to bottom. A couple of good tracks, great tracks, and excellent tracks. Not the longest album, produced by the great Mitchell Froom, who is now in Crowded House instead of just producing them. Booklet with lyrics. Neil Finn's always been an interesting one for me. I like his stuff, but it doesn't. A couple of his albums I've liked right away. Some of them had to grow into me. This one I liked pretty quick, but the obsession came a little bit after I had got it, and the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. I do have a vinyl version of this. This is a reissue. Crowded House, my favorite band, along with Kate Bush, would be my other favorite artist. Crowded House, Neil Finn. So that includes, Crowded House being the main thing. Split Ends I was into before Crowded House. Neil Finn's solo stuff afterwards. But definitely, if Neil Finn's there, I'm a fan. But yeah, this one, I moved out to Massachusetts where I started to become certified to be a teacher. Love This Life, I remember that track. When You Come, those are some of my favorites off of here. Remember turning on a few people to this. They had never heard of the band that I lived with at the time. Met them all, just we're all going to school. I was in grad school at the time. But good days. What do we got next here? Okay. Sorry, did another pause there for just a second. Realized I didn't have an album up here that I wanted to talk about in my order, and had to go do a quick check to see where I was going to put it. And This one is Rickie Lee Jones, Flying Cowboys. Okay, that's weird. Something coming up there I didn't want to see. That's better. Just something coming up on my other screen here that I didn't want there. But this album was the end of my time in Massachusetts, the start of my time in Hawaii, that I got into this one. After I graduated from Massachusetts, I moved to Hawaii. I remember waiting for my CDs and stuff, tapes to get out there so I could hear this again. I started listening to it in my UMass days. It had been out for a while. I don't know why I missed it when it first came out. Probably more a UMass album now that I think about it than a Hawaii. Produced by Walter Becker. And I was into Rickie Lee Jones. I had a couple of her albums. I liked it. Walter Becker of Steely Dan fame. And, you know, I just heard it and it's just like, wow, what a melding of the two musical worlds. And I thought it worked really well for me. You know, you could definitely hear the Walter Becker influence on here, but just a lot of tracks I really like. The Horses, opening track, love that. Just My Baby, great. Ghetto of My Mind, I think that was the single I heard on the radio that got me aware of this. Rodeo Girl, good song, Little Miller. Satellites, it's another song that got some radio play. Ghost Train, a little more classic Rickie Lee Jones there. Flying Cowboys title track, just another track I love, but definitely you can hear the musical influence of Walter Becker melding with Rickie Lee for a great song. Some great background vocals I like on that track. Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying, cover, just solid stuff all the way through here. Love Is Gonna Bring Us Back Alive, Away from the Sky, I really like that tune. Atlas Marker, good. No, not the. I don't remember that track that well. Looking at this, I've listened to this album recently and can't think of that one right now. But End of UMass. This was just. I like this artist. I like this artist. I wonder what they sound like together. And for whatever reason, this just worked. Got into it at UMass, but I do remember waiting for this album to arrive in Hawaii to listen to it because it was one of my favorite sounding things of the time. You can tell by this point, you know, I listen to some heavier music, but my obsession's definitely outside that Kinks album so far. And for the rest of these, I got a couple other heavier albums that I didn't choose because I wasn't quite as obsessed with them. This album came out what year? This next one, 1990. Again, at the time, I don't remember listening to this. I remember hearing the single for this, The Obvious Child. This is Paul Simon, Rhythm of the Saints. Another one that I originally got on CD. This is my original CD. Lots of stuff right in here. No lyrics and all that. No real pictures in here. Graceland was his big hit. And one of my favorite guitarists, Adrian Belew, all over like half the tracks, 5 or 6 tracks on Graceland. And I like that album, and I like The Obvious Child. And this is an album, you know, got it in my UMass days and really started listening to it in Hawaii when I lived out in Hawaii. And this wasn't an obsession at first, but it grew every time I heard it. This album probably sounds more different to me on different stereos, headphones, than any other album. And that's one of the things that intrigued me about this. I do also have a vinyl copy of this. This is a recent reissue vinyl. It's not a gatefold. I don't think there's anything special in here. Lyrics and all that. Same picture it has in the booklet. Not much. But every time I'd hear this on a different stereo, there's so much percussion, all these Brazilian percussions on it. And I've never heard the depth of instrumentation on an album like I've heard it, but it's never hit me like it hit me on this album. And, you know, I'd listen to it in a car and I'd hear something different. And then a couple years later, I'd get a different car and I'd hear something different. I'd get a new set of speakers and I'd notice something different on it. And this one just grew and grew, and it just was one of those albums I would just, if I wanted to be music to wash over me and just totally get lost into it, this is definitely an album I could do that with. The Obvious Child, again, I like pop music. I have no problem saying that. You know, I got introduced this through The Obvious Child. Can't Run, but good track. The Coast, great track. Proof, that was a single, got some airplay. Further to Fly and She Moves On, probably my two favorite tracks on the album. Born at the Right Time, awesome. Cool, Cool River. Spirit Voices is an amazing song. I think that's the one Adrian Belew plays guitar on. Rhythm of the Saints, but I can get lost on this album. Graceland, probably everybody thinks it's better, probably a better album. I was obsessed with this. I wasn't obsessed with those other ones. Oh, what do we got next here? This album surprisingly didn't have a Wikipedia entry. And again, sorry, I'll get my head back up here just grabbing my props. This was a CD. This looks like a newer CD. It looks like I had to buy this again. Because this one I got into when I got out of Hawaii. This is a 1996 release. It was released when I was in Hawaii. I may have heard it out there. But I remember really getting into this when I came back to the mainland. I was living up in the Monterey area. And there was a station called K-Pig. And I know that they played a lot of Bruce Cockburn. Because they leaned towards the folky stuff. Definitely alternative stuff. And that's where I started hearing this album. And picked it up and just... I'd always known Bruce Cockburn from growing up in Madison. He was popular there. So he'd always been on my radar. You know, if I had a rocket launcher on the MTV and some other stuff. Always loved the fact that he's got lyrics in French in here. Not that it did anything for me, where you can read that, but his albums always had lyrics in English and in French. But this was, you know, one of those 55, 60-minute CDs that came out. I only recently got the vinyl on this, which is one of the worst packagings I've ever had on vinyl. Nice bigger on the cover, but they made everything too small in here. Jammed it in. It's like the exact same font as the CD. It's like, it's an album, make it bigger. You could have, you know, the albums sound good. They play well. They hadn't really been released. The packaging doesn't, I don't know if you can see it's wrinkled in here. It doesn't fold very well. It's a little better now than it used to be after sitting squished in the other albums for a while. But this was a CD, and this looks like I've rebought this. I don't know what happened to the first one. Probably wore it out. It started skipping. But there's some interesting guests on here. Rob Wasserman playing bass guitar and fretless basses on here. Annie DeFranco sings on this, who I was very much into. Gosh, I can't think of the other girl's name. She was in The Story, a band from Wisconsin that I like. I see Rob Wasserman on bass. Gary Burton playing some vibes on a few tracks on here. He's a well-known player. Jonathan Brooke, that's the young girl from the young woman from the Story that I used to like and hear too. So some people that I knew on there. Bonnie Raitt playing some slide guitar on a track here. Maria Moldauer. So he's got some talent on this album. Bruce Cockburn, if you don't know him, he's a Canadian songwriter. Love him to death. Still playing these days and sounding really good on his acoustic guitar. Just taking a look through here, seeing if there's any other different people I know on here. Playing a lot of, this is a little harder album than some of his at spots. It's definitely got his folky style on it. But this was a Monterey. I was working in Seaside, living in Monterey, California, and a couple of apartments. I can't remember the addresses. I was working for my friend Ron at Sideline Sushi Sports Bar, besides teaching. And just loved this. Got to see Bruce Cockburn on the tour after this album when I lived there. But nothing but solid on here. Night Train, Get Up Jonah, Pacing the Cage, amazing song, covered by Jimmy Buffett, surprisingly. Mistress of the Storms, I think that's one of the ones featuring Gary Burton instrumental with the vibes. The Whole Night Sky, Bonnie Raitt on slide guitar, great song. He played that when I saw him in concert at McCabe's in Santa Monica recently. The Coming Rains, Birmingham Shadows, one of his long drawn-out talk-sing songs. The Mines of Mozambique, Live on My Mind, Charity of Night, another one of those talk and sing songs. Just love that. Strange Waters. Put out a good live EP after this, recorded in my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. Because he had this steel guitar he was playing, but it came out with a fairly electric, heavier sound, and then I'd heard on a lot of his stuff, and just great sound on this, well produced. Not a Wikipedia entry on this album. You know, maybe I need to learn how to do Wikipedia and get that out there, but I did get a vinyl copy recently. It sounds great. Don't like the packaging. Could have done better, True North. Let me down. Okay. So I haven't been counting these. I think I got 11 here we're going to do. The next one. Geez, I guess I went out of order here a little bit. This is a UMass album. Jane Siberry, When I Was a Boy. A lot of you aren't going to know this one. Brian Eno produces a couple of songs on here. I had gotten into her possibly on MTV, but Much Music, the Canadian music station I used to see her. She's another Canadian songstress. This is a 1993 album. I was very much into her at the time. I heard David Bowie. I heard Brian Eno's producing on this. You know, it's like I was into Brian Eno. Couldn't wait for it to come out. Got it right after it came out in 96. I was living just outside of Northampton, Massachusetts. Can't think of the little town then. But I remember listening to this album. You know, it's one of the ones laid down between the speakers in the house when I had the house to myself. And this was the album I listened to. It does have one semi-hit on here with Miss Katie Lang, Calling All Angels, wonderful track. Very sparse at times, rich and textured, but very sparse. The the two album songs that David Bowie produced to me don't sound like the most David Bowie. I keep saying David Bowie. Brian Eno produced sound more dancey than other tracks on this one, which is fine. They're great tracks. But, there's more of that sparse, open Brian Eno sound on the rest of this album than the tracks he produced, ironically. Temple's a great song to open it. Calling All Angels, Love Is Everything, just a beautiful little ballad. There's a second version on the end of the CD. I doubt it's on the albums of Love Is Everything, Sail Across the Water, All the Candles in the World, Sweet Incarnadine. I'm sure I mispronounced that one. The Gospel According to Darkness, that's another one of the tracks I really like down here. An Angel Stepped Down, The Vigil, Bells, which is just recording of bells. In the Beginning of Time, a lot of long, drawn-out epics here. It's kind of proggy. Wonderful voice. But this is the end of a series of albums I really, really liked from her and was obsessed with this. And I can remember I can't remember the name of this town. I need to look it up on the map and see what's out there and find out where that town is I used to live in. But I love this album. Probably not for everybody. Very sparse at times, very keyboard heavy. Guitars on it, but more ambient. I was forgetting that, lots of ambient style background sounds and synth washes and openness. And even though Eno only produced 2 songs on here, he had to have been an influence on her and all that. And I think that's 10 albums. Let's do one bonus one here that I have out. I had mentioned I lived in Hawaii for a while, and at the end of my time in Hawaii, where the Talk Story name comes from, I discovered slack key guitar and started getting into that, and discovered more and more of it when I moved to California, because there's this record label called Dancing Cat, which was out of Santa Cruz, and George Winston was connected to it and made it and was producing all these albums. And living in Monterey, going up the record stores in Santa Cruz, I started discovering all this more Hawaiian slack key music, which I had just discovered right as my last year in Hawaii. And this was the one album I became obsessed with from that. Uncle George Kahumoku Jr. and Drenched by Music. I have been fortunate to say 25 years after I discovered this or got into this, or 20 years or something like that, I've got to meet George, and he's been a mentor of mine and teaching me some Hawaiian music and Hawaiian culture and just being a good friend. And he puts on an amazing show on Maui that goes on at Napili Kai Hotel, the Masters of Hawaiian Music. If you ever get to Maui, check it out. It is totally worth the effort to get over there. But this is the first album, slack key album, I obsessed over. Another nice long 64-minute CD. Not going to see that on vinyl. But he had Bob Brosman guesting on here, several instrumentals, but he had this long, rambling, again, almost ambient style of playing guitar, and I could just get lost in it. Queen's Jubilee, instrumental, 6 minutes. Vocal song with chant, 2.5 minutes. I almost hate to say the names to mispronounce them. Ka Uluehi o Kekai. Hano Hano Hawaii, vocal, classic song, Bob Brosman on guitar. Another 6-minute vocal. Kaua Noe Nohea, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. Uilani, 6.5 minutes instrumental. Kulana Napua, 12.5 minute instrumental. And I just love his guitar string and plyle on there. It just, I feel like he's talking story to me. You know, it's just such a conversational style of guitar. It's personal. It sounds like he's speaking to me on that. But he has all these wonderful instrumentals on here that I could get lost into and just close my head and, close my eyes, listen to it, and just get lost in the music. But got to give a shout out to Uncle George Kahumoku Jr., friend and mentor he has become. Look forward to going out to Hawaii this summer and I'll spend a couple weeks on Oahu, week and a half on Oahu, week on Maui, and get to see Uncle George performing again. Hopefully he's out there at this time. I know he's in the process of some life changes, moving to Santa Monica, I believe. Santa Cruz. But his show lives on. He's mentored some excellent young musicians out there who are picking up the slack, you could say. So that takes it to the end of this video. It's been a good long video, 50 minutes. I was worried I might be done after 20. Geez, mostly just a straight me talking here. I did pause it a couple of times. So those are my first 10+1 album obsessions, I believe it is, that I've had, albums I've just listened to forever. Hope you enjoyed it. Didn't realize it was going to go on this long, but hey, it's talking story. It happens. Thanks for joining me. Any comments, suggestions? What albums have you been obsessed with? Put them down in the comments below. Aloha. We'll catch you all later. Thanks for sticking with me this long. Have a good night.